Mini skirt on, dip my body in glitter. Platform sneakers, all the boys want a picture. Two foreign cars, I make rich look richer. Save your breath, baby, I'm not going home with ya. Mini skirt on, dip my body.
Hello. You are now tuned in to the A Little Bit Alive podcast. I'm your host, Kristen, and welcome back to another week. Thank you so much, guys, for stopping by. I really appreciate it. How's everybody doing this week? Oh man, this week has truly been a struggle. I've really been fighting for my life. Every single day it's been something that's been kind of throwing me off. It's like little minuscule things. Like, for those who don't know, I stream on Wednesdays on my YouTube channel, and we do, gaming and stuff like that. So this week I played The Sims, and I got a new webcam for my streaming, and it's supposed to record in 4K, but then I realized after I streamed that this new camera, all of my words were delayed, so you could hear me, but then my mouth was moving slower. I don't even know, it was delaying everything, and I didn't realize until after I got off stream. So that was annoying. So I guess I'll be returning that camera. I can't figure out how to fix it. I don't know. I never said I was going for world's best streamer here. I just wanted to be able to once a week key and hang with the girly pops and play games. But all of these technical, issues come up, and I don't know how to fix them, right? So that's annoying. So I guess I'll just go back to using, the other one that I was using. But nevertheless, she persists. And at the end of the day, I think this is a lesson that we all can take, right? Sometimes obstacles get in your way, but you gotta keep pushing through. So I haven't really been in the best mood this week, but one thing that has been getting me through it is all of the TV shows that I've been watching, animes, reality TV, you name it. I've really just, like I said, a few weeks ago, been in my TV era. I love watching TV, but I have to really be in the mood to watch it and consume this much as I've been consuming for the last 3 months. So I've just really been going hammer bammer with knocking everything out and getting these shows done, honey. So I just figured that we would talk about this for a little bit because we have Love is Blind. Mind you, I have not watched the last couple seasons of Love is Blind. It really depends on what the cast is like if I'm gonna watch it or not. I keep up with generally what's going on every season because that's all the internet talks about. But the last season that I watched, I think, was the one with Marshall on it. And I can't remember before that. But I know that my favorite season, though, is the one with Lauren and Cameron. Of course, they're tried and true, and they just had their baby. God bless. You know what I mean? Shout out to them. So I figured we would talk about Love is Blind and just a couple of other shows that I've been watching this week, and just kind of give my recap on my thoughts, because I don't think I've ever talked about this show on my podcast, and this season was truly a doozy. I did not watch this willingly. My boyfriend wanted to get back into Love is Blind, and I'm okay, I guess we can give it another shot. But it's after so many seasons, it was too much for me, right? So I'm glad that I took a break and then came back, because this season was insanity. So let's get into it. But before we do, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. Be sure to give this video a like. It really helps. Subscribe. I really am trying to get to my first 1K subscribers, guys. I can feel it, okay? We are 100 and... Last time I checked, I think maybe 130. I could be wrong. But 100 and something away from hitting that first 1K. We are on the road to 1K, right? So if you aren't already subscribed, I would highly recommend that you do. Okay, the pros are, one, it's free, right? It's free 99 to subscribe. 90% of my viewers watch and don't subscribe. I know that it can be a little intimidating to commit to hitting that subscribe button, but we are trying to build a community where we talk about mental health, pop culture, music, movies, TV shows, you name it. So every Friday we have the podcast episode. Every Wednesday we do the live streaming with the games, Mario Kart, Sims, you name it. So if that sounds like something that interests you, I would highly recommend that you subscribe, right? You don't want to miss out. Turn those post notifications on and comment down below to let me know what TV shows have you been into lately. Do you have any recommendations for me to get into? Let your girl know. And if you're watching on Spotify and Apple, thank you. I appreciate it. Rate that 5 stars and leave a review to let me know what you think about the show. So when it comes to Love is Blind, I was not aware that this season was taking place in Ohio. So as a Michigander, that was pretty interesting to know that they were so close to me while filming this. Starting off, of course, we have a lot of the couples that are trying to make it, but then we ultimately have like the couples that ultimately do end up making it all the way to Mexico. And I felt like it was kind of weird because at this point, with it being season 10, so many people are hyper aware of trying to get to Mexico. The amount of people that have been in the pods bringing up the fact that they want to go to Mexico was kind of like taking me out of it. And I'm like, oh, right. Like we're fully aware at this point of what happens on this show. And it's like, ooh, that makes it feel kind of like, okay, like, are you actually here for your love? Are you actually here for the free Mexico trip? Are you here for clout? What? Because should you be bringing up the Mexico already when you haven't even made it through the experience in the pods yet? I don't know. And then of course, sometimes it's a bit painful to watch because then you have people who are just immediately like, oh my God, your favorite color is blue? My favorite color is blue. We're meant to be, guys. And it's like, oh my goodness. It's just hard to believe that these connections, they're built on such superficial like circumstances because these people are so desperate to find love. And I don't want to fault them for that, right? Like, when you don't have it, it's something that can be like all consuming, right? You're just like, I need to find a husband. I need to find a wife. Like, I want companionship. And a lot of these people, they may feel like, time is a ticking. They're in their 30s. They really want to lock it down. But it's like, at what point are we crossing like delusion versus like let's really face reality here? Because we should not be having the standard be so low to where you have things in common. So you're like, oh, that's my husband. Like, I have things in common with lots of people, and that doesn't mean that I want to marry them. So then it's kind of like, okay, should we really be reconsidering what are the standards that we need to set before we say I do, right? I don't know. So then in that, it kind of gets, a little bit annoying when it comes to the show. And then, of course, I would say, the biggest thing, let's take a look at like the main couples that do end up making it to Mexico and like, they follow through and showing each couple's journey through the experiment. So first we have like Emma and Mike. My initial thoughts on Emma and Mike are that they both seem like they are genuinely nice people, right? Mike seems like he's a great guy. He seems like he's very nice, understanding, obviously would be a great, father, and I think a husband. And one thing that obviously is like intriguing to me is that he's Italian. You guys know, like, I just love an Italian, okay? Like, something about like Italian culture just gives like, I don't know, I feel like it almost kind of feels like Black culture, but at the same time I know that it's totally not, right? Like, one set is white people, one set is like Black. But I would say that Italians some kind of give like close to Black culture at the fact that Black families tend to be large, Italian families tend to be large, and both cultures focus on the importance of family, friendship, and like food, So I think that that's one thing that, is intriguing about like going and being compatible with somebody like Mike is that he has, that background. He seems to really be close with his family. His mom and dad, seem really cool. So you would think like automatically, okay, great guy. He didn't really give me like too many red flags other than the fact that he was so set on kids, which at the end of the day, is that really a red flag? Like, wanting children? No. But what makes it a red flag is that he's continuously pushing it onto someone who clearly from day one was open and honest about the fact that that's something that they may not really want to do. So then it's kind of like, okay, what are we doing here? It's like beating a dead horse, you know? So that's where it kind of got concerning to me with the way that Mike was like, you know, handling this experience. Was kind of just like, what do you want, Mike? Like, I don't really think that there's any amount of persuasion that you can really do that's going to change how she feels. And I think it's just really like kind of gives double standard moments, because it's like whenever it comes to someone who wants children, we don't like go in on them and like ask them, well, why? What are your reasonings for this? It's kind of just like, okay, that's the standard. But then when you have someone like Emma who says, oh, I don't really know if that's something I want, then all of a sudden she's getting drilled and grilled with all these questions, you know, person, place, or thing, what, when, where, how, why don't you want children? And it's like, shouldn't those questions be asked to people who also say they want them as well? Because sometimes, like, I really think that people who say they want children really need to think about it more in the way that people who say they don't. Like, are you really sure? Are you really 100% sure that this is what you want? Because I think sometimes people like Mike, not saying he feels this way, but a lot of the times people like Mike who say, oh my God, I want kids. They're so fascinated on the idea of kids instead of really realizing that they're going to be raising like adults who are then going to have their own brain, have their own autonomy, and then be like functioning members of society. So are you really thinking about like the long term and what really comes with raising an actual human being? Or are you just like stuck in like baby land and like, oh, I would love a baby, I would love a family? Like, are you really feeling the severity and weight that comes with making a decision like this? You know what I mean? So then sometimes I feel like it's kind of a double standard when it comes to drilling a person who doesn't want children versus drilling a person who does. Like, we should be questioning everybody, whether they do or they don't. Well, in reality, actually, we shouldn't question anything. Everybody's decision is their own decision. I don't gotta explain nothing to y'all. That's really the real tea. They shouldn't have to explain a thing, but if we're gonna open it up and we're gonna feel like, okay, as a society we're comfortable with questioning people, let's question the people who also want kids, right? Let's open the discussion for both parties, those who are for it and those who are against it. I don't know. It just felt like there was so much pressure being put on Emma about this and not enough questioning on Mike, right? But like I said, no shade, no tea. I 100% get why Mike feels the way he feels. Like we saw, he comes from a, you know, seemingly loving family, a big family. Okay, that's what he wants. But with Emma, you know, I just feel like there were so many parts where I understood where she was coming from. And then there was other points where I'm like, why did you come to this experiment? Right? Because I feel like, firstly, I 100% just don't feel like this was the right like experiment for Emma to go into, right? Because the way that she was going about what she was doing in the pods was just like kind of like, huh? Like she was very like secretive, and when she was saying that she was adopted, she was like, well, I don't want to tell you where, because, you know, where from, because that could give away, you know, my race and stuff like that. And the fact that she was like so timid to tell people about, you know, her scars, I get it. But at the same time, this is not the experiment that you need to be in to where you're trying to like hold too many cards close to your chest. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be open. And I think that you have to really understand and have a strong understanding of who you are, what your morals and values are, what you want, and just like deeply be connected to yourself as a person, and kind of like have a big understanding of your like strengths, weaknesses, your insecurities, and all of that. And I don't think that Emma gave off that's the type of person that she is, right? It felt like she had like a lot of like unresolved trauma and insecurities with, you know, where she was adopted from. The fact that she was adopted seems like something that she needs to like work on, you know, with the trauma of like realizing like, yeah, I'm adopted. There's also trauma that comes from being the only Asian person in an all white family. And also there's lots of trauma that she needs to work on in therapy with accepting like her scars. And I just thought that it was strange when she was talking about that with her family. Her family was like, what, we didn't know that you feel, you know, insecure about your scars. And it's like, what's going on here? You guys don't know that one of her biggest insecurities is her physical, you know, appearance. Like, I'm so confused. So that kind of like made me side eye the family too. But then again, like, maybe Emma truly is the type of person who just doesn't like to open up about those things whatsoever, and has never felt safe talking to her parents about this. I don't know. So overall, what I'm trying to say was, I just think that Emma really needed to have a lot of like more work done on herself to feel more confident in as herself as a person going into the experience, so then she can give a lot more of what's needed from you mentally and physically when doing a show like this. But ultimately, you know, once we were like kind of halfway through, I'm like, well, dang, well, regardless of how like ready she was or not, she did find a connection, and her and Mike did seem to be like okay together, right? And I think that in a different, you know, reality, if kids weren't this like ultimatum, like deal breaker, I think that they would be compatible to a certain extent and be able to work through, you know, things well enough to like have a nice future and have a good marriage. But I know that ultimately the kids were the deal breaker, and that caused them to end up not getting married. I thought it was interesting though that Emma said yes and Mike is the one that said no. I personally just feel like, Mike, if you knew that this was your deal breaker from the jump, then maybe you should have cut it off sooner. I don't know. But at the end of the day, that's what he did. That was his decision. So yeah, I truly think that this was an interesting, you know, case, right? These two, you know, but ultimately, like, I don't want to say that, oh, well, just because you have trauma doesn't mean that you don't deserve to be able to have experiences that other people have, right? But I do just, you know, obviously in an ideal world, wish that Emma would have like worked on more things, you know, like inner work before doing something like this. But I do, you know, wish both of them the best and hope that they can eventually find somebody, you know, that they're 100% compatible with. Moving on, we also have Alex and Ashley. This was also a very interesting and complicated couple, because at the end of the day, Alex and Ashley are automatically a chop, just given off the conversation that they had with Ashley's dad, him asking if he voted for Trump, and he said, yeah, he would. So then, like, that automatically makes me know that both of you are Republicans. You both support this administration, and that's problematic in itself, right? Because, you know, if you support an administration of someone who quite literally is like what, a felon, and has done, you know, literal crimes and disrespects women constantly and wants to take away our autonomy and rights, and constantly does the most to intimidate and scare, you know, American citizens and also those who visit this country, it's concerning. So I'm just like, okay, right. Like, y'all are kind of both automatically a chop. And just because Ashley is a Republican, though, and seems to obviously be a Trump supporter, I wouldn't say that that automatically makes her an awful person, right? But I am questioning her morals. She seemed to be kind of like really trying in the experience with Alex, but there's only so much that you can do with a man like this, right? So it's like Ashley has her own set of issues with her like assumed political views through her dad. But then Alex is a whole nother weird case. And I think that she was 100% right in saying no to him at the altar, because there were lots of things with Alex that weren't adding up. I personally feel like it's kind of almost like Emma, where Alex, why did you come into this experience saying that you were 100% ready to be open and vulnerable and have a wife if you weren't ready to be open and vulnerable? You're only sharing bits and pieces of your life. And I feel like I understand where Ashley was coming from as far as that's concerned, because he was not clearly keeping it a buck with everything. right? And it's like the whole point of doing this experience and then potentially getting literally married, legally married to someone, is so that way you can get to know that person. So I feel like the questions that she was asking him about his present, his future and his past were all perfectly normal. The whole point is I want to get to know you. I want to get to know the things that you've been through. So that does include your dating history. That does include places you've traveled, places you've lived, things you've done, things you've seen, places you've worked. So when she's trying to get to know these like very basic things, he's taking it as a way of like, oh, she's trying to catch me in a lie. And it's like, what? Why is that your first assumption? Why do you always go on the defense when she's trying to do a perfectly normal thing, which is getting to know you and trying to understand, like I literally just said, all of these things about your history and your past, because those things make you who you are. So knowing where somebody comes from and what they've been through, I think is a very important part that's going to, factor in your decision making on if this is the person that you want to get married to. But the fact that he just caught an attitude every single time she tried to ask literally anything was obviously a red flag, not just for me, but I saw online lots of people on TikTok felt the same way. Like, what is this guy's deal? And on top of that, why was he so focused on trying to leave Ohio as soon as they got married? Wouldn't you think that you'd want to get married, settle down for a second, figure things out, come up with your plan, and then eventually go? Why do you want to just get married and then just take her away from her family and everything that she's ever known? Are you not going to try to read the room? Clearly, this is a girl who has been privileged her whole life, hasn't really gone anywhere, hasn't really done anything. She's very comfortable with being close with her family, and you just want to yank her away from all of that, no questions, and just go. It's like he's not even trying to consider what she's used to and the fact that she likes her environment as well in Ohio. And it was more just like, okay, what can I do that's going to serve me instead of serving us as a newlywed couple. So it's like, okay, Alex's perspective on things like that was very confusing, and a lot of people online felt like he was hiding something, because it's like, why are you feeling like you're on the run? You don't want to answer any questions about your life. You want to leave the state so badly. And then there was at one point when they interviewed him and they asked him about, his ideal future, and he said that ideally he would like to be with his wife and kids and do this and do that and have a safe house in New Zealand. Huh? That is like everything about his answers when they would ask him stuff was just, I personally felt like not normal. Like, I've never heard of anyone just casually saying that they want a safe house in New Zealand. And like, what do you need a safe house for in general? Like, I'm so confused. And then of course there's the matter of people feeling like after they got engaged, he called his mom and they felt like the person on the phone's energy was like weird. And it was like almost kind of like, okay, like, why are you calling me? And then like her energy was different from on the phone versus the lady who showed up and said that she was his mom. So it's like, was that his mom on the phone? I don't know. But everything about that conversation was a bit weird, was a bit awkward, because she said that she was like doing something but then showed up. But everything about him was very weird. I just don't understand. And like Ashley said, nothing about the timeline of his explanation of things about his life were really making sense. He's saying that his grandpa died at this age, but then him and his grandma and grandpa got together at this age. So then that's not adding up. I'm just like, oh my gosh. And like, I do think that like Ashley's dad did have a like clue that like this guy is kind of weird, right? So I do understand from a dad perspective why he like drilled Alex the way that he drilled him, because he's just kind of strange. And then just the way that he talks, it's like Ashley said, he's saying a lot of things, but at the same time he's saying a lot of nothing. So you're like, what are you even talking about right now? And then it was just confusing to me how he was saying that Ashley like wasn't his normal type. Like, Republican views, political views of aside, Ashley is pretty to me. So I just don't understand why she wasn't good enough in Alex's perspective, but I don't know. And then like the fact that he showed up to the wedding with no haircut, beard not shaved, he had a crumb in his on his beard and his chin. It's like, do you even actually care about what's going on right now? And it's just so concerning how the whole time he's like, I'm not nervous. I have nothing to be nervous about. I'm not, worried. I'm not concerned. I'm just so sure of myself through this whole experience. And he even acknowledges, like, it's not me saying that I'm like emotionally numb, but I'm just, I'm ready. And it's like, no, I do think that to a certain extent you are emotionally numb, Alex. I don't think that you're being 100% truthful here. And then, of course, the way that he was handling his energy going into the actual wedding day was strange. Him saying that, it's like getting ready for the big game. It's like, first of all, this is not, you do not need to be comparing your wedding day to, yeah, it's like we're in the, and I'm in the back of the locker room chatting with the guys, getting ready to go get the, get the big win. Like, no, you are not supposed to be treating your literal potential marriage as a game. That's the exact opposite of what anybody would ever want you to do. This is not a game. This is actually very real. This is actually very serious, Alex. So I'm going to need you to get out of the game mindset and buckle up, be a man, and actually, refer to your wedding as what it is, your wedding, and not some big game with the bros. Like, this is kind of concerning. So I don't know. I just think that overall he gave I peaked in high school energy. No shade, no tea. Also, I do think that it was strange how, he was able to kind of evade, questions so easily to the point where it's like him and Ashley are talking about something serious. She's wanting to know more about his past. And then he's able to be like, nuggets? And she's like, huh? And he's like going off, naming her McDonald's order as if he's at the drive-thru. Okay, Buffalo, large fry, you want fries? Coke? And it's like, clearly you are trying to deflect. It's absolutely ridiculous. And if I was Ashley, I would have wanted to swing on him on that couch and say, F the nuggets. I'm trying to actually get to know you. I'm actually trying to get through these walls that you keep setting up. Why won't you let me get to actually know the real you and you tell the truth about your history, your past, and your present? What's the issue? So I don't know. Very concerning. And also, allegedly, they're saying that both Alex and Ashley had decided that they were going to say no at the altar, mutually going to say no. But then she beat him to it. And then had this kind of moment where she popped off on him at the altar and said, I already know what you're going to say and I'm going to beat you to it. I'm going to say no because at the end of the day, I deserve more. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's true. But also I don't think that the impact of her little I'm independent and I deserve, better came off as sincere. I don't know. Something about her speech that also didn't give sincere. I don't know. It's just in real life, I wouldn't want to be friends with somebody like Ashley or Alex. Both of them are kind of a chop at this point, but ultimately Alex is also the one that kind of out weirds her. So I'm glad to be done with both of them. Then we have Bree and Connor. Oh my God. So ultimately, from what I can tell, do think that Connor is a nice guy. Okay, so what? He's not a perfect person. His house isn't, perfectly clean. Okay, his Christmas tree was still up. That is the reality for lots of people. Okay, he's not some odd person, and it doesn't need to be, I think, made as big of a deal as Bree was making it. That his house wasn't 100% perfectly pristine. Right? And I don't think that the keg needed to be this big deal as she was making it, but that's just my personal opinion. I think at the end of the day, Connor genuinely seems like a nice guy. Yes, he's, more of an introvert. Yes, he's more quiet. Yes, he's more timid. Ultimately, I do think that he genuinely did have feelings for Bree, and he was very, adamant on communicating that throughout the experiment, and I appreciated that. He was letting her know, ultimately, even though you can be kind of mean and a little bit crazy, I'm still madly in love with you. And I personally was like, okay, hey, you see that's your girl, right? I don't see what you see in her, Connor, right? I personally don't see it. But if you say that's your girly pop, then that's your girly pop. I guess, like, when it comes to Brie, I also didn't like the fact that, you know, I just didn't really like her personality. Like, I'm not saying that I'm anti loud, strong, independent girly, but at the same time, a lot of the things that she would say would come off as like he said, mean and kind of condescending. And I heard allegedly that somebody online said that Brie used to like bully them in high school. So if that's the tea, if that is true, and she did allegedly used to like bully people, then her personality now kind of checks out. Where it's like, okay, girl, like, once again, are you giving peaked in high school energy? Kinda, right? Because the fact that she was always just scrutinizing every little single thing and just being so analytical instead of just being present in the moment with Connor was kind of concerning to me. As soon as you meet him, you're talking about his sweaty hands, you're trashing his place, even though at the same hand, you're also saying that it's impressive that he has his own place, that he's done well with his career, and you know that he would be, you know, doing what he needs to do to continue to keep moving up in his career to take care of you and your future family. It's like, I don't even know. Like, everything she was saying was contradictory. Like, she knows that Connor's a good guy. She knows that he's madly in love with her. She kept saying that. I know that you love me. I know that you love me. So it gives, like, you know that he loves you more than you love him. I don't know. And then, of course, like, they're in Mexico and she just keeps going on and on about how weird it is that everybody that was in the pods in Mexico that had connections with each other but didn't choose the other connections when they're talking to each other. Like, girl, just say, I'm gagged that Chris didn't talk to me. Just say that. Like, everything about her saying she needed to, like, have more conversations with Chris and stuff was, like, weird from the jump. And I low-key think that maybe she might have, like, taken him for granted. I don't know. The whole situation with Brie and Chris at the bar, him and his Mr. I don't give a flying fuck. I don't give a flying fuck. How many times are we gonna have to hear you say that, brother? We give it. You don't give a flying freak. You don't give a flying freak, but somehow you're still here, babe. You're still here, harassing everybody, making everybody uncomfortable. Everybody in the spot knows that you're wasted. You come up in here, like, talking to Bree, saying you want her, messaging her, DMing her, when you know that she's supposedly committed to Connor. It's so strange. And it's like, I'm side-eyeing Brie also at the fact that she even entertained Chris for as long as she entertained him, being hammered, being drunk at that bar, him going on and on and on about how he wants her. It's like, Brie, I personally, the way that I move in my relationship, would have never even let Chris get a chance to talk to me because I'm committed to Connor if I were Brie. Matter of fact, the second that Chris walked in, me and my mans would have left because we don't have time to be hanging around kiki with the enemy. Like, you tried to message my girl. If I were Connor, you tried to message my girl last night or whatever it was, and you gonna show up in here drunk, trying to talk to my girl. Hegs, nah. That whole situation was just strange. So, I don't know. Ultimately, I'm glad that they also didn't end up getting married. And I hope that, you know, Connor finds a nice girl who, like, you know, isn't mean to him. Because Brie, aka Breezy, she's just a chop. She's just a chop. Like, no shade, no tea. She's the type of girl who, even if she was a coworker, I just would not like her. She's just kind of annoying. So, moving on. Then we have Jessica and Chris. We stand Jessica. At the end of the day, she's a baddie. And like Amber said, where are you going to find another hot doctor like this? Like, this is absolutely sick, absolutely vile. Like, Chris is just awful. Like, you're telling me that you're going to go on your profile, buy followers, go to the strip club right after, you know, quote unquote, like, being disrespectful to Jessica is so weird. Every single thing about this man has just been sus and strange from day one. I do not like him, did not like his personality. He constantly made me feel uncomfortable. And I don't even understand how somebody as nice and decent as Jessica was even able to tolerate Chris for as long as she tolerated him. So kudos to her for trying her best to get through this experience. I think this is another one of those situations where Jessica was so desperate to get married that she was able to deal with this little munchkin and say, no, I'm going to marry Chris. And it's like, girl, no. He was clearly not the one from the jump. So I'm glad that ultimately she chose to be like, you know what? No, I'm not about to marry this man because him going on and trying to tell me that my body is not good enough and that he's used to dating Pilates instructors is ridiculous. You knew from the jump that she wasn't an athletic girly. You knew that. But at the end of the day, even without it, the body is still tea. So what's the issue, Chris? It's like, oh my God, these men want the moon, the earth, the sun, and the stars. And that's not the tea, dude. That's not the tea. So he was just absolutely awful. And she's lovely. So I'm glad that they didn't even make it to the wedding. I'm glad that he revealed his true colors even before that. Like, unfortunately, you know, that means she had to go through the gags, right? And I hate that she had to go through that. But I'm glad that she realized, you know, sooner rather than later that he wasn't the one. Because it's like, you look like how you look and you're telling me that you want to date a Pilates instructor. Like, I can't stand people like that. They just think that they're so much better than the rest of society because they work out and they're active and they're fit and they do this and they do that. They get up early and it's like, girl, it's really not that serious. At the end of the day, I'm doing far more important things that you could ever imagine doing. I'm in the hospital. I'm saving lives. What about you? You think you and your Pilates instructor could ever do anything close to what I'm doing by saving lives in the hospital? Like, cut the noise. He's a chop. Then we had Jordan and Amber. I really liked this couple at first. I think going through like the experience, I really wanted them to work out because I think that they're both just kind of like awkward, but like perfectly made for each other at first, right? I think that ultimately Amber seems like the type that wouldn't, you know, typically choose somebody like Jordan. And I think that's what made this experiment work so well for them. I didn't like how they kept showing like Jordan eating though. Like, what are y'all trying to say? Like, it was so many shots of him just eating and then him being like, I'm a big guy. I'm a big guy. Okay, like, let's be real here. I do not think that Jordan is that big. Like, yes, he's like broad and like kind of buff, but he doesn't really have like this big gut or anything like that. So I'm just kind of confused why like society is acting like he's big. That was confusing to me. But anyway, also, I just think that, you know, they vibed together well. They understood each other well. But of course, we have the big elephant in the room, which was he was, you know, nervous about potentially being a stepdad. And I don't know, you know, if Amber, the way that she handled this experience with her daughter was the right thing to do. I just don't know, because at the end of the day, I don't have a child and I don't want to, you know, necessarily judge how someone else parents their child and the things that they choose to do that they feel are best for them and their child. But at the same time, as somebody who has been a kid of divorce, I felt like the first time that I met my mom's new boyfriend after my parents separated was not a good experience. Like, and my mom knows this, but the first time I met her boyfriend, we were driving to like our halfway point where we had spent the night, you know, the weekend with my dad. And so when we got out the car and we went to go greet my mom so our mom could take us back to her place so we could, you know, be back with her for the week. We realized that there's a man with her, unannounced, and he's driving her car. And we're like, okay, who is this man? And the whole thing felt awkward because it was like, you didn't let us know that you were bringing a man with you for us to meet. And on top of that, you bring him when we do our pickup, like our pickup, like with our dad. Like, I'm so confused. And everything about it was just really awkward. I was like crying once I got home because I just felt like I was like ambushed, right? It's like, okay, here's this man without notice. I think that for the sake of a child's feelings, when you're a kid, all of these things can be so confusing because you're like, okay, my parents aren't together. That's really, hard for you to grasp as a kid. Like when it comes to meeting that person's like new spouse, you should help your child, I personally feel like, be prepared for that in every aspect. So if she would have like gave us a heads up and let us know, hey, I've been dating someone. First of all, we didn't even know she was dating. And two, I'm ready for you to meet him. That would have been a lot better, to give us a mother freaking heads up. But she didn't do that. And I feel like the same case could apply to Amber. Like, Jordan wanted to meet Amber's daughter, but she's like, no. And it's like, is that the best decision to make? Waiting until like, what was it, the day before the wedding, I think, for Jordan to meet Emma or whatever her name was. It's like, I don't know. So then it's like wedding day, her daughter looks scared of the cameras. Her daughter didn't even really look happy during the wedding ceremony because she's like, I don't know this man. I don't know this man. And all of a sudden my mom is getting married. So it's like, I personally think that Jordan should have been allowed to spend more time with her daughter before this. So, but it's like at the same time, I get why she feels like, I want to be protective of my daughter. I want to make sure that he's the real deal before. But it's like, you guys are getting married, sweetie. So I think that makes things different. And that means that he should have been allowed to meet her sooner. I don't know. Especially given the fact that this was one thing that he said he wasn't going to do, was date somebody with kids. And now he met you and he's like, okay, I don't know. That's just personally coming from, like I said, a perspective of a kid who's been, a child of divorce. I feel like that was kind of awkward to watch. But ultimately, I do think that Amber's a nice girl. I do think that Jordan's a nice guy. But it's like, and then when they had that argument and she like didn't talk to him for 12 hours, I'm like, okay, is going nonverbal and icing him out the best way to handle this situation? I don't know. But then again, I know emotions are high during this experience. They're not always acting the way that you would normally act in these situations because it's very, a stressful experience. It's new. It all feels kind of crazy being recorded while you're going through such a big, decision in your life. So I try to give people grace, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, okay, I don't know. But ultimately, I was happy that they decided to say yes to each other. But I heard that allegedly they already got a divorce 3 months after they got married. So we'll have to see, when we have the reunion next week, if that's true. But I'm like, ooh, okay. And then, of course, we have this love triangle that was going on between, what's his name? Kevon? It might be Kevin, Tyler, and Kia. I don't really have much to say about this situation. Honestly, I feel like I'm glad that Kia and Tyler did what they had to do, especially Kia, because once she told that man, hey, I don't really think that you're actually ready to get married. I'm like, honestly, that's the best thing you could do. Keep it a buck with him, right? Hold him accountable and then get the frick out of there and save yourself, right? And it was the same thing with Tyler. Like, I understand she was very, very set on, I want to be able to have a husband, but do I think that she should have pressured and like pushed him as much as she did? I don't know. That's not really for me to say. Her choices were her choices because at the end of the day, we all know that he was on games too. And I can understand why that would be frustrating for both parties. Like, ultimately, this is another case of another man who had a lot of unhealed trauma, who wasn't really 100%, had a lot of confidence in himself. So why was he even on the show? I don't understand. Like, one thing about it, two things for sure. People with personalities like his genuinely do not like mesh well with a personality like mine. I could not stand this man, and I genuinely wanted to slap some sense into him several times. We had to listen to his blabbering nonsense in the pod. Like Kia and Tyler said, there's only so much times you can keep telling me I'm a great person, I'm a wonderful person. But what are you actually going to do to make the decisions that you need to make for us to move on with this experience? Like, you gotta choose. Like, it was so pathetic. It's like, dude, what's going on? Like, you can't actually give genuine answers. We're not actually fully, genuinely knowing how you really feel about anything. You're just saying a bunch of nonsense. And ultimately, that ended up causing you to lose out on two great girls because you couldn't be self-assured enough to say, okay, this is how I'm really feeling. This is who I'm really vibing with, and make a decision. But ultimately, it worked out for the best because I don't think that either of these ladies needed to waste their time with someone like him because he was a chop. Then we have Brittany and Devontae. Everything about this is like another case of somebody else being very excited to get married to the point where they are living in delusion and are willing to see it through with somebody that clearly is not meant for them. Like, we know that Brittany was so serious about getting married to the point where she already had her wedding dress. So it's like, okay, she's going to do whatever to make sure that she gets down that aisle. And she really tried, because I just really think that it's not fair that there were so many times where Brittany was trying to talk to, is that how you say his name? Devontae? And say, hey, I don't even know if you even actually like me. Do you even actually find me attractive? Do you actually find me pretty? Am I even the one for you? You know, how do you feel? Like, it should not, in my opinion, be like pulling teeth to get your fiance, right, to tell you how he feels about you. Like, this man was very clearly not actually interested in her from the jump. And it was really, really sad to see. Like, the fact that she literally went home, introduced you to her family, and her family was also like, oh, he's so perfect. She's wanted this for so long. To the point where you even got your family joining in on the delusions. You even got your own family being delusional for the sake of your delusions and your dream. So they're all convincing themselves that he's also the perfect one. And it's like, no, sister, that's not the tea. Like, this man actually does not like you. He doesn't find you attractive. He seems like he finds you annoying. And listen, I understand. Introverts need time to think to themselves, you know, be by themselves. But the fact that even in Mexico, he like low-key was showing that he didn't want anything to do with her was like so concerning. Like, I don't think that he's ever even dated anyone outside of white women personally. So I think that was a big factor in how he was feeling. And it was just so crazy because he'll say a bunch of like things that like low-key are the truth, but then he'll disguise it as a joke. And it's like, she'll be like, haha, you're so silly. And it's like, no, he's actually really telling you how he feels about you to your face. And you're like keying like it's a joke. But this is actually very real. And the fact that he like called off the wedding, it was like honestly the best thing that he could do to save her. So I'm thinking, okay, yes, finally, like she'll be able to be away from this man. They'll break it off because she clearly cannot see that he does not like her. Just for then her to be like, well, we're still engaged. We're still together. We're just not going to get married today. And I know that he was sick about it because in my mind, I think that he thought that if he called off the wedding, then that meant that they were going to be broken up for good. But she's still like, no, we're still together. We're still engaged. So now he still feels like he's being held hostage by this girl. And it's like, dude, just keep it a buck. Tell her you want to break up, that you want nothing to do with her. You clearly do not like this lady. Like, I'm so confused. So everything about this relationship was also a chop. I truly think that she's a nice lady and she deserves better. Like, I was sick of him. And then we have Vic and Christine. I loved everything about their relationship. I truly think that they also give like Lauren and Cameron energy, right? Except it's like swapped. So like Cameron's white, but Christine's white, vice versa. I truly think that they are such a lovely couple, but it kept kind of like throwing me off because my boyfriend, on the other hand, wasn't too sure about how he felt about Vic. he was like, I don't know, it just seems like there's something that we don't know about this man. And I'm like, ugh, I don't know. But a lot of times when my boyfriend says that, he is usually right. So I'm like, is there something about Vic that we don't know? You know, like, can we trust this man? But it seems like from what we've been shown, we can only go off of what we've been shown, right? He seems to so far show that he is legit and that he is a good stand-up guy and that he does care about Christine. So if I'm not going to go off of like my boyfriend's hunch and just go off of what we've been presented in the show and what I can tell from like his social media, he does seem like a good, decent guy. Yes, he's an introvert. Yes, he's quiet. You know, you're never going to catch him smiling too often. He seems like he is very serious. He's very confident in who he is. He knows what he wants. And I think that those are all good things. And it's the same thing with Christine. You know, they bonded over their past, their, you know, rough childhoods, their experiences with, you know, dealing with like being in trouble with the law. That was pretty funny. They bonded over their religion. So it seemed like they were perfectly aligned in every single way. And I do think that sometimes, every once in a while with this show and shows like this, you are going to find people who genuinely are compatible in this way. So I was living for their relationship and rooting from them from beginning to end. I think that, you know, their vows were so beautiful. I'm kind of confused on why Christine met his mom and his sister on the day of the wedding. Why didn't she meet them? Wasn't she able to meet them before? I don't know. But I also thought it was a green flag that Christine had a black friend. So you're like, okay, right? Like, everything's Gucci. She's dated people of other races. He's dated people of other races. They seem to be aligned on so many things. They just naturally have such easy, good chemistry. So I really hope that they can go the you know, the distance, and that my boyfriend is wrong about Vic. Because they were genuinely so lovely, and like the fact that everything went so well when Vic met Christine's mom and they all prayed together, I'm like, oh, that's so cutesy, right? One thing that really did upset me about the way the production handled Vic and Christine was the fact that they didn't go to Mexico. But maybe that's like the fact that they didn't expect so many couples to make it, so they didn't have enough room for them. I don't know. I still don't understand why they didn't go to Mexico and why they didn't have a camera crew with them when they did their little trip after the pods. That was so annoying. Like, I want a camera crew following Vic and Christine so we can get more Vic and Christine content. But then at the same time, I'm like, was it for the better? Because this is clearly one of the couples that is like actually really seemingly really real and genuinely loves each other and genuinely seems connected. So maybe it was for the best for them to have their experience be more private. I don't know. Ultimately, that was like one thing that I was like, ugh, I want more of them. But yeah, overall, they're really cutesy, and so far I'm happy with where they're at. So I'm just hoping that we don't, you know, nothing messes up with these two. But yeah, so far that's, you know, how I'm feeling about everything. Like I said, we do have the reunion next week, so we will get more tea on what's going on with these couples and stuff. But in the meantime, I also finished the Traitors this last season. What was it, season 4, I think? And we finally saw, spoiler alert, that Rob won. And I even watched the reunion, and I just thought it was pretty interesting that you have people like, you know, Candace, who are just like, Rob, I would respect you more if you would just keep it a buck and say that you wanted to win. And it's like, girl, isn't that the whole point? Aren't we all here so we could hopefully get a chance to win this? Like, why do I have to go outright and like verbally say I want to win? I think that that's like implied that if you came here to play this game, that you want to win, because it is a game. And so I do understand like where people like my boyfriend are coming from, where he was like, dang, like these people take all of this so personally. Like, they shouldn't take it personal because it's a game. And so I get it. I get that in the day, like, it's a game, so you should theoretically keep your feelings like tucked away from it. But at the end of the day, we're only human. So I know that having emotional connections and having your, mental energy tied into it is really hard. So it's like, I understand, both sides as to why, some people get, more upset than others when they feel like they've been wronged in this show. But ultimately, like they say, it is a game. And I just thought that it was so gaggy that Moira, from the beginning to the end, was just blindly following Rob. And I just thought it was so funny because, like, there were so many, like, memes where people were like, Rob could literally be like, hey guys, I'm a traitor. And they'd be like, okay, so anyway, what about Jam Jam? Because it's like, I thought it just could not have been more obvious. But like everybody says, we feel that way because we're watching at home, but it's different when you're in person. So I try to give him grace, child. I try to give him grace, but it's like, ooh, at the same time, it's feeling like these were the worst faithfuls that we ever had because y'all could not figure it out. I guess kudos to Rob because I had said from the jump, I'm like, I really think Rob could win this. I truly think Rob has a big chance of winning this. And sure enough, he won it. And when he told Myra that he was a traitor, and she was, I was like, ooh. Poor Myra. Like, girl, she was gooped. She was gagatroned. But you know what? Rob ended up keeping his promise and he got her that Birkin. I saw it today. He got her that Birkin. I know that's right. I was like, okay, Rob, get that Berkey. I also been watching The Burbs. If you guys heard about that, it's a new show. I've been watching it on Peacock, I think, and it's starring Keke Palmer. You guys know I live for Keke. So far, that show has been really good. And I've also been back on my Sailor Moon things. Right now, I am like halfway through done with season 1 of Sailor Moon. And me and my sister have been watching it. And this show is just so crazy. There is just so much more to the Sailor Moon lore than I thought that there would be. And there are so many pros, there's so many cons when it comes to the Sailor Moon TV show so far that I feel like I need to have its own like dedicated episode to talk about it with you guys. So let me know, how are you guys feeling about Sailor Moon? Did you watch it growing up? Because I'm just now watching it for the first time, even though it came out in like what, 1990, 91, 92. I don't know the exact year, but it's been a doozy. I know that, but it's good. It is good. It is a good show. And I'm like, we got to key. We got to key about season 1 of Sailor Moon. So I think that's my plan. Once I finish season 1, I want me and my sister to get on the pod and talk about our season 1 review and share our thoughts because, ooh, it's a lot. It's a lot more, like I said, than I thought it would be. So yeah, that's it for this week's episode. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Like I said, I might talk about the reunion, the Love is Blind reunion that's happening next week. So, stay posted for that. And like I said in the beginning, if you want to subscribe on YouTube, I would really, really appreciate it. We're so close to that 1K. So go ahead and subscribe. If you have any friends that you know that might be interested in any of my podcast episodes, or you got a friend that, loves Love is Blind, send this over to them. Sharing is caring. Spread the good word about this podcast. Go ahead and give this episode a like on YouTube. Comment down below to let me know. Like I said, what did you think about this season of Love is Blind? Like I said, any other show recommendations that you would give from me would be highly appreciated. Spotify, Apple, rate that 5 stars, leave a review, and be sure to follow me on socials, Instagram, TikTok, at A Little Bit A Lot Podcast. And I also have coloring content where I do adult coloring and I open blind boxes occasionally, and you can follow that at Coloring with Kristen on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Everything is going to be in the description. So that way you guys can follow me, keep up, follow me all over the internet if you want. And with that, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Foreign cars, I make rich look richer. Save your breath, baby, I'm not going home with ya.